Yo guys, what's up? We're on the 9th of May 1940, 1 month after the start of Operation Weserübung. But Hitler had spent a lot of time reading up on reports from Sachsenhausen, a concentration camp where Dr. Otto Ranke was ordered to experiment with the Jewish and Polish prisoners. One of the most notorious ones was the Death March around the compound, wearing boots made of fake leather, marching for 24 hours over the track with mixed underground layers of rocks to be able to get through the process. Just to see how badly the boots would be damaged, prisoners were injected with a drug that kept them far from being exhausted. All of this served for a purpose, and on the 9th of May, everything became crystal clear, literally. A drug called Pervitin that was available for common people in German pharmacies, now seen as methamphetamine or crystal meth, was transformed into an application for soldiers. By mixing the right amount of Pervitin with a dextro energy tablet or cognac, it turned soldiers into buzzing supermen, good to go for days without feeling fatigue. And Hitler had a second weapon for his war against Western Europe, the Waffen-SS, an elite power of hardcore forces to lead the panzer divisions and the infantry. Just as he did during the Poland campaign, Hitler stayed close to the front in his forest bunker near the Belgian border called Nest. But his troops for Val Gelb had to cross the Meuse River in South Belgium and East France, bypassing the Maginot Line on the French-German border, and all the bridges had been wired with explosives. All that was needed to get the French army moving into Belgium was a knock on the door of the Eben-Emael fortress located near Zussen and Liège in the east of Belgium, a fort that guarded 3 vital bridges over the Albert Canal. Because this was the German entry point in 1914, the world's biggest fortress had been built here after the war, 2,500 feet by 2,000 feet, with a heavily guarded gun line on the east side watching over the Meuse region. The 5 kilometers of tunnels were buried 20 meters below ground level and were connected to a tower with a staircase 20 meters high leading up to the machine guns and cannons. With a dome on top for shelter, this tower could be raised out of the ground for a few feet to fire. So a ground invasion with panzers would be impossible, and Hitler switched to glider planes with lots of backup on standby once the eastern gun line had been destroyed. But the plan was so loony that Hitler only sent in 86 paratroopers to break down the world's biggest fortress. The gliders landed around 4:20 in the morning of May 10th with 86 paratroopers on Pervitin. Commander Kurt Student had the order to land 9 glider planes on flat terrain behind the cannons. And because glider planes don't produce much noise, the 750 Belgian guards were too late to open fire on the paratroopers and were dragged into a 28-hour battle against gung-ho German soldiers. The gliders had never been forbidden by the Versailles Treaty, so the Germans were the world leaders at glider skills. They were pulled into the air by airplanes hanging on with a belt and were released at 20 miles from Eben-Emael, therefore soaring in over the Dutch-Belgian border without a sound, to land on the only possible breach of the fortress. Any ground or air offensive on Eben-Emael would have resulted in a massacre. The central gun position called Koepel 120 was destroyed with explosives, while the Belgian troops had been caught by surprise. When the panzer divisions waltzed in, the fortress was breached and a small group of soldiers went into the tunnels to knock out the staircase leading up to the gun position on top of it. By using a hollow charge bomb, they managed to concentrate the entire blast on one point due to the immense air pressure, and that was the end of the raid. All the cannons had been destroyed with small explosives. In a space of 15 minutes, 86 paratroopers and some backup prevailed against 750 Belgian guards. The prisoners were locked away deep inside of Germany, so nobody would hear about the Pervitin story. The French army was already around Brussels by then, at 8:30 in the morning of May 11, but that was exactly what Hitler wanted. He was just pushing backup forces through this gap, and a B regiment of godless paratroopers was going to clear the south of the Netherlands, but the main invasion with all of Hitler's aces combined was already going for Sedan in the French Ardennes and Dinant in the Belgian Ardennes. The Belgian Air Force unit Ardense Jagers had spotted the advance through Luxembourg, but communication about Eben-Emael was more important. The largest of all invading decisions was spared from air attacks, but the column traveling through the Belgian Ardennes had many more problems, such as the narrow roads that created large panzer traffic jams. Winston Churchill sent in the Royal Air Force immediately after his inauguration and troops to help guard the beaches in Normandy. But with numerous German breaches, things were not looking good for Belgium, France, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands on May 11, 1940. Initially, the idea was to capture Paris, but the involvement of the British forced Hitler to change the main target to the English Channel, even though communication only reached half the division. But a hard battle still awaited the Germans if they wanted to conquer Belgium. Traffic jams and slacking off were not allowed anymore. Pervitin and the capture of the world's biggest fortress. That's what we remember for now. See you on the next one, guys. Peace.